Hi everybody, welcome to today's webinar from NBS, Integrating the Model and Specification with NBS Chorus. So in terms of the session, we're going to start with a very short recap, an introduction of the basics of what the NBS plugin does. And then we're going to hear a customer story from Sheehan Nagle Hartray Associates. And then we'll finish with a preview of some of the future developments later this year in this area of the NBS development stream. So my name's Stephen Hamil, I'm Innovation Director here at NBS, and I'm joined by Nigel Rayner, Specification Writer at SNHA. So without further ado, a little brief bit of housekeeping. I think the webinar today will be around 50-55 minutes. Everyone's microphones are muted, but because we're showing new developments, we want feedback on this. Please put as many comments in, as many questions as you can. And there's nothing better than finishing the webinar and going to the feedback and reading sort of detailed questions and suggestions and things. So please add your comments in. We try and keep it a bit interactive. So yeah, first of all, NBS plugin, a brief introduction from myself. Yeah, so what we can see on the screen here is the NBS plugin in the context of Autodesk Revit. But the principles of everything I show today also work in ArchiCAD, in Vectorworks, whether you're on a PC or a Mac. You'll notice we haven't got a very complex Revit model, but what Nigel will show later will be a bit more complex. This is just to show the basics. So we've got Autodesk Revit, we've got the 3D model, I've got a little schedule prepared at the bottom. And on the right-hand side, you can see I've logged in to NBS Chorus. This is the plugin that comes as part of the NBS subscription. I'm just going to go to this project here, Model Integration Example. And you can see that the specification here on the right-hand side is associated with this model. So you can link the specification and the model together. What you can also do is then link the objects inside the model with the equivalent specification clauses. And this works whether you've written the specification to unit class classification, common arrangement of work sections, or even if you're in Canada or Australia using the national classification system or a master spec, what have you, the principles are all the same. But today I'm showing the unit class content. And you can see here that this particular door has been linked to that particular door set clause. And as you click through the items in the schedule here, you'll see it's selecting the correct door set in the model, and it's linking across, and you can work on the specification at the same time. Further down the schedule here, you see that I've got 5 or 6 windows, 2 or 3 different types. They're not yet linked to the model. So I'll just go through and show how you can link the two things together. So I've got a bit of a floor plan set up here, and you can see that the doors are annotated using the fields you can see in the schedule, you can see them in the spec, but the windows are not. So you've got the windows here, single window, triple window, and then they currently have those fields blank. And if I clicked on one of these, it's not synchronizing with the specification yet. So let's just quickly annotate these up and just show how this works. So you click on the object in Revit. So click on the triple window here. You come across to the contents list in NBS. And you can see here I've got 3 different window systems. And you just come through and click the 3 dots on the right-hand side and say associate with the model. And when I do that, it takes the properties or the parameters, to use the Revit terminology, from NBS Chorus and pushes them in to the fields in Autodesk Revit there. So that's gone across, and there you've got external windows, classification code, and it's using the NBS Chorus suffix and prefix. They're there in the multi-category annotation, and they're also there now in the schedule at the bottom of the screen. So I do the same for this window type here. So click on the window. I can maybe say show all of those instances. It's important that the relationship between instances in types. So you could have 50 instances of this window, but it's all of the same type. And what I do there is again link that up with the specification. As I make the association, what you can see is it puts the icon in against the clause in the spec, and it also drops the parameters in against the object itself. So we've got the final window type here. You need to see the same again. Click on the window, this one here, jump across, and that's my 3 window types, all linked up, all annotated, coordinated drawing, schedule, and specification. Now, one thing you might notice is I've sort of deliberately been a little bit sort of incorrect with the naming convention. I've got Windows System 102, 103, but that one's just called Type A. When things change in the spec, either something getting completely removed or just getting edited, they become out of sync with your drawings and schedule. And what I want to do here is just demonstrate how you can bring those back into sync. You get something called the model report, which says everything's fine, there's no issues. So let's create some problems, create some issues. I'm going to jump across to Chorus itself here. It's exactly the same project, model integration example. I'm actually logged in as a different user. I'm logged in as Kate. But if I come across here, I've created a little summary schedule with the little checkboxes. Like, it stands out like a sore thumb that one's type A, whereas 102, 103. So I'm just going to jump in and change that to WNS 101. As I do that, that pushes it up to our servers and then pushes it back down. It could be a different machine, it could be somebody in a different country. But when I jump back across to Revit here, you'll see that in that model report, it's now telling me I've got an issue. And if I look at the content and just show the windows again, it's updated to window 101 in Chorus, because that's one sort of single source of truth in the cloud database. It's flagging to the user there's a problem now because the parameters no longer match. WNS 101, whereas over here you've got type A, and in the annotations, let's just come across to the right-hand side here. You can see it's the type A window. You just click the button, fix all, and that pushes the 101 from the cloud database, NBS Chorus, into Revit. Everything's now linked up and you're getting no more issues. So that's a quick example of how it works on an RFA file. Any questions, please drop them into the chat. The last thing I want to demonstrate is how it works with layered objects. So you've got something like a partition system here, which is made up of the timber frame, the plasterboard, etc. You can see it's possible to annotate the system object in Revit and the materials inside there. So there's the gypsum board, the plasterboard, the same type for both instances again, and the timber frame. So let's do that from scratch for the floor covering that we've got down here at the bottom. So let's just close that off. And I think it's a carpet floor. So what I'm going to do is click on the system object, and then I'm going to associate that with the rolled carpet system. And as soon as it's the same principles, again, it's just doing the same thing over and over again. You're dropping properties into a digital object, whether it's Revit, whether it's ArchiCAD. And as those properties drop into the object, you can use them for scheduling, material takeoff, annotations. And now the top material layer here is, let's just have a look at the spec for that. And you'll see it's a piled carpet with underlay, with plywoods. You maybe don't model the nails or the leveling compounds, but there's 3 materials there I am going to sort of model and link to. So let's just do the piled carpet. So I'm going to say link this layered object with the piled carpet. Important step here is I'm not going to relink the system object itself. I'm linking to the piled carpet material inside there. And then I can do that same thing for the underlay. Where is it? So I'm coming to it to the underlay here as well. and then finally sort of do that to the sort of plywood product there as well. And it's the same principles where you can come into that modeling report, see if there's any problems, see all of the objects that you have associated, like the floor covering system there. You can also see what you haven't associated. So imagine this is a really big project, looking for a high school or a hospital or something. You've got this huge floor plan. You could say, look, where is the boiler or what have you? And that's going to zoom in and show you what you haven't yet specified. Add that from your masters, add it from the NBS library, start the specification and link the two up. And I think the final thing to mention just before we move on to Nigel is, as you're looking at the specification here, if you do have a query, so maybe you're not going to write the specification because I'm just coordinating the design, you can come and put the spec notes in as well. You put that message in, it's in the single cloud. So if I jump back across to the version of Chorus that Kate's logged in, as I come across here, you can see that note there. Kate can jump to exactly the right place in the spec, see the query, and to sort of just sort of drop that note back. So yeah, you're sort of building up the sort of the record of the decision-making process as a collaborative team between the designer and the specifier, or even just making notes to yourself while you're making certain decisions. So that's a quick sort of whistle through of the current functionality as it is. What we're going to do now is move onto a customer story. So that customer story will be from SNHA, and I'm glad to say we've got Nigel Rayner. He's a specification writer. Nigel's worked with NBS on customer focus groups for many years now. It's great to have you here, Nigel. I'm going to pass to Nigel, who's going to do a presentation explaining a little bit about the practice and the processes that they follow in terms of specification and integrating that with the model. And then we're going to have a little chat, share the screen, ask some questions and things. So over to you now, Nigel.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning, everyone. My name's Nigel Rayner, the specification writer for SNHA London. Firstly, I'll just give a brief introduction to SNHA and then an overview of our specification process and how we're developing a strategy for integrating NBS Chorus with Revit. This is sort of work in progress. It is a journey we're on, so it'd be good to share that with you. So SNHA, it's an award-winning firm. We've got offices in Chicago and London. Our culture is one of creativity, purpose, technical expertise, and mentorship. The majority of our projects undertaken in the London office are data centers, which inherently require a high level of technical knowledge, and the buildings generally have a significant building services requirements due to the high heat loads being generated. Therefore, coordination with other consultants is a key part of our work. We endeavour to approach each project with a fresh and strategic perspective, working with our clients throughout the life cycle of the project, from inception right through to completion, to produce high level of design, consistency and quality that our clients have come to expect. So SNHA London was set up by our directors, Richard and Justin, who have had over 15 years experience working with data centers. Together with Jose, they oversee all projects lending support, guidance and expertise to the practice. The associates manage several projects, assisting project leaders who run the projects on a day-to-day basis, from conceptual design through to completion. Within the project teams are designers and technicians who all contribute to the delivery of innovative building designs. In addition to our designers, we have support staff, which include BIM specialists, visualization people, technical team, myself as a specification writer, managers, and administration team. Nikki, our business director, provides assistance with resourcing, contractual agreements, and financial aspects of projects. Currently, we're a staff of 39 in the London office, and approximately 60% are bilingual or multilingual. So it's an incredibly cosmopolitan office and a great place to work. So just moving on to our information management. As you can see from that, and like most other architectural practices, Revit forms the center of most of our information management. On the front end, we always create BIM execution plans, so the BEP there. And with regards to specification, we use Microsoft Excel, obviously NBS Chorus, and the construction service information services. So that for knowledge share, standards, etc., like that. Also, in terms of presentations at the early stages of the project, we use Enscape for rendering. We also use Dynamo, BIM 360, and then there's the outputs, which normally go through something like SharePoint, and then for clash detection, Autodesk Navisworks. Master specifications form a key part of our work, mostly because most of our work is dealing with data centers throughout Europe. So it involves a combination of repeat working and designing from first principles. So having the master specifications ensures that we can have that consistency in approach from project to project, and that then the project specifications individually can be adjusted to deal with any local variations depending on the country that the project might be in. It could involve change in building regulations and other standards. We use organization notes and specification notes to raise awareness of any of these changes to local regulations. So from this extract, you can see this is a balustrade and guarding system within our specification. You can tell from the rosette that one of those clauses has come from a master. And you can see with the yellow dot with the one in it, that's an organization note. So for the design of the balustrade system, it's basically alerting people that what they need to do is insert the national building regulations applicable to the country of project. This one happens to be in Denmark, so it was referring to the Danish building regulations. In terms of how we start, outline specifications, we generally use a template in Microsoft Excel. So this has been generated for each outline specification from an Office template, and it's then edited on a project by project specific requirement. The columns are generally the element type, which is external walls or roofs, and then the next 4 columns in brown with a brown heading there are actually inputs from the NBS Chorus. So you can actually and sometimes we do fill that out in NBS Chorus, and then we export that as a summary sheet. So you can see in the bottom right there how you do that. It's basically export summary sheet, and you can see that, say for the curtain wall system CWS01, that the text is the same from the summary sheet and in the brown columns. We then add additional information, which is sort of performance criteria, manufacturer, product reference, and some additional product details. And that then basically creates a schedule which we submit. A key part to creating our technical specifications is our prefix system. And we've developed this grouped by the building location typology or element type. So that is basically the same element type that you saw on the previous slide in the outline specification template. And therefore what we've done is created prefixes for each system. So every system that goes into NBS Chorus has a unique prefix to it. So the one we're showing here is CWS01, the stick curtain walling system. So you can see the prefix is CWS01, title is stick curtain walling system, the suffix external glazing, and the NBS code. So those are the clauses that are basically go into the outline specification, as I described earlier. You'll also notice that the description, the text in that description is the same text that is in the outline specification in the slide before. We also use the prefixes and the element type in our knowledge base. So all our product information is indexed in the same way. So this way we're sort of linking our product information and our specifications and making it easy to find information. So then when we come to integrating with Revit, with NBS Chorus, what we tend to do is for systems, we have developed our own family, tag family, which is based on the NBS multi-category tag. But basically we've taken off, in terms of the system tag, we've taken off the suffix. So you can see from the parameters here that basically the system tag is just picking up the prefix, which is unique to every system, the Uniclass 2015 title, and the Uniclass 2015 code. So we would use this for sort of 1 to 100 to 1 to 50 scale drawings, where we only want to indicate the system information. And you can see from the example there, so if you see the metal profile sheet cladding system, the MCS01, and the parameters there on the right are showing what those parameters are. Then for details, so for detail drawings, 1 to scale, 1 to 10, 1 to 5, we utilize what we call a product tag, and that doesn't have the prefix. And the reason for that is that there is a case where you get products such as, say, an EPDM membrane, which are used in a number of different systems. So we don't want a prefix incorporated into that product clause, because it would be confusing as our systems have unique prefixes. So therefore we have this tag which doesn't include the prefix but includes the suffix. So it has the title, the suffix, and the Uniclass 2015 code. And there's an example there of how that is produced on a detail drawing. So this gives us flexibility to specify generic products throughout a number of systems without duplication. And I think that's the key, is that we didn't really want to duplicate products with different prefixes. Of course, there's always exceptions to the rule. And as I said, it's a journey that we're on. So we're still developing our strategy, but we wanted to have prefixes for certain product clauses, such as these, which are like infill panels to say curtain walling. So we want to differentiate these and to be able to identify them on elevations. Therefore, as you can see, the GL01 is a prefix used on this product clause, and that's for just clear vision triple glazing. And the GL02 is basically a sort of back-coated glass spandrel panel. So that is the way on the elevations where we can link the NBS Chorus and the Revit together. So just to summarize, within SNHA, we have dedicated specification writers, such as myself, who basically produce the specification content within NBS Chorus. And then we liaise with the design team, the designers, and the technicians during the development of the Revit model. So they do a lot of the tagging, and we basically, or myself, does the detailed input of the specification data. As I said, we're still on the journey in developing a strategy of trying to produce better information for the contractor, information that's clear, consistent, and easy to find. And we're also looking wherever possible to automate the link between drawn information and specification. And one thing that we'll be sort of showing in the next section, the sort of discussion with Stephen, is an example where we've started to use a filter within Revit, which is linked to the NBS Chorus to check if the correct specification has been associated with the appropriate detail item. So this is good because we do use quite a lot of repetition of detail items in our work. So for SNHA, the success of creating a specification and integrating with BIM is a balance of controlling the detailed specification data through a small experienced technical team and sharing that key relevant information with a design team modeling the building in Revit. And getting the balance right is vital for efficiency and improved knowledge share throughout the practice. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Nigel. That was a fascinating presentation. It's always a real pleasure to see how our customers are using the NBS tools on live projects. I've got a few questions prepared, and moving away from the sort of PowerPoint and just like showing live things on the screen. Is it possible that you could sort of jump across the chorus and show an example of how you've taken that NBS template clause with the guidance, maybe links to manufacturers, and made it specific to one of your projects?
Yeah, sure, Stephen. So here's a sort of a stair system that we've done in a previous project. As you can see from the sort of standard template in NBS Chorus, we've used some of these, but not all of them. So we basically have what we require. You'll also notice that there are some other clauses in here. So if I go to these, and again, you'll see that there's a rosette. So these are user clauses that we tend to insert as standard clauses within specification, referring to the resistance to corrosion, FM Global certification, LEED, etc., and design responsibility. Also within this specification system, you'll note that we've got some organization notes. As I briefly sort of mentioned in the presentation, when you click on those, it comes up here to give people awareness that they should be designing to the national building regulations applicable to that country. So we're using that feature. Also, you'll notice these in green. So we are using the marked as complete feature. This at the moment has only got 5 out of 28, but it is a new feature in NBS Chorus that we are tending to use now as well.
And for the organization notes there, Nigel, I noticed you removed the BS from the standard to make it just a standard European standard. And must be a project in Denmark?
Yes, that's right. So if we're doing projects within Europe, we tend to remove the BS and just put the EN. So yeah, that's what we do with that. And then we've also got some clauses here, which you can tell have come from NBS source. So you can click on that and it takes you to NBS source and the manufacturer. And you can see here, if you drop down, you've got the clause inputs here and to the products. So we're tending to use quite a lot of the features from NBS in most of our systems.
And I noticed there's quite a lot where it hasn't been relevant. You sort of crossed it out. Is it possible you could just show on the screen how you can toggle between seeing all of the content and the content which will be sort of published?
Yeah, so you're quite right. Some of this information is part. So what you can do at the moment, it's saying showed part clauses or part rows. And basically you can just click on that and that they all then are not within the view. And also if you want to check who has edited, you can basically show last edited details, and then if you hover over, oh, that's unknown, you can see that that was last edited by myself.
Excellent. And I noticed the relationship between the clauses and the parent systems. There's, like, for example, there that STS3, STS4, STS5, and it's quite complex how many different types of systems you have. Can we take a step back and just, can you show an example of one of those sort of planning schedules that you had? I thought it was fascinating when you talked about that in your presentation.
Yep, sure. So this is the example of the outline specification schedule that we have in Excel. As I said, these are the columns, the ones in brown, that the information can be directly exported from NBS Chorus. These are the element types that we have developed, and these are basically on a drop-down menu. So we can go to, we can select basically internal wall, roofs, floors, waterproofing, etc. And this schedule basically goes down in that order. So it goes internal walls, roofs. As you can see, there's quite a lot in here, floors, ceilings, and that sort of thing. And all of these systems, you'll notice, have the dedicated or unique prefix to them. So looking at that, this is our prefix master template. So again, you can see these element types. Those relate to the drop-down menu in the outline template, and then these are the prefixes that we've developed. And if we get a new system and we haven't got a prefix, then we make another 3-letter prefix, which is unique. So that's how we develop it, really.
And the additional columns or properties, if you like, that you had over and above what you can get in the current NBS summary schedule, I think I noticed there was like a preferred manufacturer, product reference, and maybe some additional notes there.
That's right. So a lot of the time we put performance criteria. So for curtain walling or whatever, it's normally solar transmittance, light transmittance, or a G factor, U values, those sort of things. Because and then also fire is quite a key one. So you'll see that quite a few of these external walls have a reaction to fire and a fire resistance in accordance with the EN standards. And yes, then we do have some manufacturers, and we do have some additional product details and additional details.
Yeah, I think this is NBS something we've talked about, but we haven't implemented yet. But could we get these fields coming through to that summary schedule so you can do this sort of outline specification inside the product and just develop it through as the timeline progresses?
That's right. What would be really good is if we could select certain clauses that we can input in NBS Chorus and then produce a report just selecting those clauses, because then we could replicate quite a lot of this within NBS Chorus, which would be great. Yeah, that would be really good.
Biggest fun part of the job, looking at how we can do new developments and where we can go. But I really like this. Is it possible now maybe to jump into the modeling environment a little bit? It'd be fantastic to see like an example inside of Revit of how it's linked together, but then also how it looks when you export it to a PDF.
Yeah, so first of all, if I just open this project in Revit. So this is a detail, obviously with our product clauses. As I said, no prefixes, but we've got the title and the suffix and the code. And these are detail items. So unlike the example you were giving, Stephen, earlier, where with the partition, which was modeled, as I said, we do quite a lot of repetition in our work. So we do rely quite a lot on replicating detail items. Then we've got the NBS specification, which is associated with this model open. And say for this typical roofing, what I wanted to show was basically that when you select each part or layer. So you can see that this is the capping sheet. So basically, when we click on the selected part, you'll see that it comes up with what it is. So this is the capping sheet, which is there. And then if we tab to that, that's the fiber cement board. So you can see in the model the clause, and in the specification the clause that's coming up there. If we were to tab to the VCL, again, you can see the VCL coming up there. So yeah, there's something else I'd quite like to show you in Revit that we're developing, which is basically where we've got a specification. We've got Revit detail items which are not associated to the correct spec. So we're basically using a filter within Revit. So if I just show you the filter first. So if we go into the filters, there's this one called no correct specification. If I open this up, you'll see that basically what it's doing is it's looking for the NBS Chorus specification LD code, and it's saying if that's greater than 0 but not equal to this, which is the code for the specification associated with this model, then to turn all the graphics pink. So let's see if we can see this in action. So if I zoom in to this detail here, we can see that these stair inserts are pink. So that's basically saying that they're associated with the wrong specification. So if I was to highlight that and go here into contents and just type in that. So we've got it here and that. And then if we associate with model, it comes up with this warning that it's saying that it's associated with this example webinar specification. Do you want to override the current association? You go reassociate now. And as you can see, it's all turned gray. So again, we can do it with this one, which is STS05. So it's this stair system. So again, if we go associate with model, it's saying it's associated with the wrong specification, reassociate now, and it goes to black.
Yeah, cool.
So cool. That is one of our sort of QA checks within for detail items, where we can check that these are actually from the correct specification, especially when these have been duplicated from, say, a previous specification, previous Revit model that was associated with another specification.
That's really nice. I think that's the first time I've seen that as well, using the sort of GUIDs behind the scenes that I know you can get from the URL within Chorus, and just using it in quite a powerful way. Is it possible to maybe flick to some of the output? You've shown the specification in Chorus, you've shown the model in Revit. I presume it's sort of like coordinated PDFs that come out at the end.
Yes, so if we just look at the staircase system that I was describing earlier, the STS04, this is a style sheet. It's been redacted, I'm afraid, because all our projects are confidential. So, but this is a client style sheet. We do have our own style sheet, but it's pretty much the same. You know, there's a title sheet and then one for revision, and then you have the contents. And this one obviously is a second issue because you can see the revised and added parts. But if we just went to this part of the table of contents, it was this STS04. So we can jump to that, and this is an example of that specification output. Again, you can see the revised clauses, the system performance. So it takes the usual, and then there were certain clauses added to this. This stair actually changed from having sort of timber cladding to steel. So you can see here the deleted clauses. These are all about sort of timber balustrading and detailing on the stair, which were removed. and then to just show the drawings that were associated with this stair. So as you can see, it's quite a interesting feature stair, this. And then we've got some plan of the landing part here. And then we have a sheet of details, again, using our product clauses here for the product items.
Yeah, really nice, really nice. And just to recap on one thing, because I think it'll link into the next part of the things I'm going to talk about. But on a typical project like this, to recap what I think you were saying, you might have one or two people that actually write the spec, but you've maybe got 4 or 5 people that are more in Revit doing the design, coordinating things, and you'd like NBS's licensing system to sort of mirror that if possible.
That's right, yes. So we have a small technical team, and I'm really the only dedicated specification writer, although some of the other technical team can write specifications. But then, yeah, on a large project, we could have a designer team of sort of 5 or 6 people working on a project at any one time. And those are the people who are mainly doing the tagging. So this sort of associating with the specification and tagging. So yeah, we're very interested in having the ability of those people to basically tag, but not necessarily edit the specification.
And I guess getting these tags wrong is the risk of the wrong product being installed. So you go and do this sort of check the building at the end, and because the drawings and the specification aren't coordinated, things can go wrong on projects, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. So it is key, and as I said before, we're trying, like with these filters and everything, to try and automate the process between NBS Chorus and Revit as much as possible.
Yeah, it's really good to see. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nigel. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, Stephen.
Okay, the final part of today's presentation is going to look at future developments. So this is a development that we're currently working on, and there's going to be some PowerPoints, some mock-ups, some developments in process. So this is going to be a little bit jumpy, this part of the presentation. So the first thing I want to show is this. It's a bit of a sort of like a preview brochure of a development that's got a working title of designer seats, but we may change the terminology a little bit. And if anyone's interested in getting a copy of this, please just drop a message in the Q&A, and we'll send that through afterwards. So a few screenshots from that PDF. But first of all, like, what is a designer seat? As you just mentioned there with Nigel, it's a cost-effective way of having more seats, more licenses of NBS Chorus, but at a sort of cheaper price for the colleagues that you have that don't necessarily write specifications, but coordinate the model so that you've got a coordinate set of drawings and schedules. Or even if you are a specification writer, but your task for maybe this afternoon is just working on the model, and you don't want to take a spec writing a seat out. So the benefit to that, we believe a number of customers request this over the last couple of years. But number one, cost effective. Number two, I'll show this in a moment, but it's easy to manage. So you can see how many seats you've got for spec writers, how many seats you've got for sort of digital designers. And it really allows you to bring that whole project team together. So you haven't got 2 silos of the people working on the spec, people working on the design, but you can get everybody in the team to understand the specification and see how it fits with the design. The functionality for the designer seats is largely the same, but without the specification writing part. So you can view all of the content, you can add, edit, remove the model associations. The suffixes, like as you saw earlier, things like SFS 101, you can change them, but not the content of the specification. You can view all of the manufacturer content, all the manufacturer guidance and manuals, certificates that go with that. Importantly, the specification notes. So it's a whole team working together, so you can add and edit, remove the notes and discuss things, see the organization notes. And we hummed and hawed about this a little bit, but yeah, all of the NBS guidance will be available as well. So you can really learn about that topic, read the general guidance, click on the standards, etc. So what I'm showing on the screen is our development server. So if you look at the URL, it's not the proper Chorus URL, it's got dev in the title. And just going to demonstrate the sort of permissions model we're working on, sort of hot off the press. But imagine this project, it's got 3 specifications in: architectural, building services, and a spec that's been set aside for maybe security systems. When I come in and add my colleague David, so pretend David only ever works in the modeling environment, I'm going to add him in, and I can make him the sort of designer. You can see the terminology, we've called it modeler here. So if anyone's got any suggestions on the terminology, please pop that in the Q&A. We've thought about designer, digital designer, 3D designer, digital modeler, but let us know what you think the terminology should be for this user type. We've got somewhere between a reader and the contributor. But by doing this, David will become a modeler on all 3 of the specifications. But we've given the full granularity there that you could say, maybe I don't want David to see the security spec. I'm happy for him to model and work on the architectural spec, but I don't want him touching the specification for building services. I just want him acting as a modeler here. So you've got that full granularity as you have with the other permissions. So that's there at a project level. But we also need that level of what seat do you want at the point where you log into the software, because you're taking the seat from the pool. So we've got a little mock-up here as a sort of a walkthrough. But at the point where you log into the software, whether in Chorus itself, or if I jump back to the PowerPoint here in the modeling environment, as you log on, you'll get a dialog which says, who are you today? So this would be the customers that take the modeling seats, and you can choose spec writer or digital modeler, and you can also remember your selection. So if all you do is the modeling stuff, just click that box and you'll always log in as the digital modeler. So seeing how this will work, this is all a mock-up, so it's not going to get released next week, but it'll get released in a few months' time. At the point where you sign in, it's Charlotte here, the UX designer that's been doing this, it'll ask you that question. So who are you today? What's your user type? And we can see that this particular practice has got 5 seats to do the full specification writing, 4 of which are in use, and there's only 1 available. And they've got 20 seats of the digital modeling, digital designer license, with 16 seats taking and 4 available. So you can make that choice, and as you come into the software, that's the role you take, but with that second layer of security at the spec level, where the administrator can say, like, you might have logged on as spec writer, but on this project, you're just a reader or a digital modeler or excluded. And what you can do here is, like, I might have been working as a spec writer for the last hour. You can quickly just come and toggle your user type as well. So I know licenses are tight, it's a busy Friday, all 5 spec writer licenses are important. I can jump across here and say, okay, I'm just going to comment on the spec or work on the model, and swap your selection. And for administrators out there, or people that want to see the licenses in use, if I just go to this mock-up here, this is showing you what happens when you hit the maximum. So if you've got a real big project you're working on, you've got 20 colleagues all working in Revit or in ArchiCAD, that's topped out now. All 20 seats are taking. There's no seats available for designer, digital modeler. You can see the terminology we haven't got right, so drop the suggestions in, please. But what you can do here, just as you currently can do, is see which of your colleagues are working in NBS Chorus, in whichever environment. And we're going to have a new column here, which will really clearly show which license they've taken out, the cost-effective digital modeler or the standard sort of spec writer seat. So that's the development. Be really interested in feedback, whether you think this is something of interest to yourselves, but the team are hard at work sort of implementing this at the moment. Okay, so that's the end of today's webinar. In terms of a summary, it's all around better information management. You you're creating the documentation, but if you're doing that in a modeling environment linked to the specification, hopefully that's better information management, which is going to bring efficiencies and lower the risk of things going wrong on projects. I really enjoyed listening to Nigel and having a conversation with Nigel. That full story will be put on our website in the next couple of weeks. So you'll be able to watch this webinar back as well, but please, a big thank you to Nigel today, and check that out when that's released. And as I say, if this is of interest to you as a development, please drop us an email, put a question and answer, pop something in the chat, and we'll get account manager to have a chat. I think it's possible that we could be making these available in advance. So you could say, like, I want 5 seats of NBS and 10 modeling ones, and we'll give you 15 seats now. And then when the functionality's developed, then it'll turn to 5 and 10. But have a chat with your account manager. But I do think that might be possible now if you want to widen the NBS usage across your practice. And yeah, any questions about anything, please drop us an email. I think there's a chance of feedback at the end that'll pop up on the screen. Always read the feedback as well. So let us know if you found this webinar useful and suggestions for future webinars. We do product-based webinars like this, but also topic-based ones as well. So thank you for attending today. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.